What really happened to Hayden Panettiere's character in The Good Student? If you watch this strange 2006 mystery and reach the ending wondering, wait, what actually happened to Allie? You're definitely not alone. Hayden Panettiere plays Allie Palmer, a popular high school student whose disappearance turns an ordinary suburban town upside down. But the movie isn't really a straightforward kidnapping mystery. It's a dark comedy built around suspension, secrets, and one very uncomfortable question. What exactly happened between Allie and her teacher, Ronald Gibb? And the ending deliberately refuses to give us every answer. Let's break it down. The movie begins by introducing Ronald Gibb, played by Tim Daly. Gibb is a lonely history teacher whose life is going nowhere. His students aren't particularly interested in him, his home is a mess, and he seems completely disconnected from the world around him. But there is one person at school who has captured his attention: Allie Palmer. Allie is popular, attractive, and well known in the community because she appears in commercials for her father's car dealership. Gibb has an obvious crush on her, and the movie makes it clear that other people have noticed. This is important because Gibb isn't presented as a completely innocent teacher who randomly becomes involved in a crime. From the beginning, there is something uncomfortable about his interest in Allie. Then Allie has an argument with her boyfriend, Brett. After their breakup, she suddenly has no ride home. Gibb offers to drive her. During the ride, something happens that completely changes his life. Allie kisses him. But there's a crucial detail. The kiss is presented as Allie spontaneously thanking him after he gives her an unexpectedly good grade. Unfortunately for Gibb, someone photographs the moment. Now it looks terrible. The school board sees the photograph and Gibb is suspended. His inappropriate interest in Allie becomes public. And then things get much worse. After Gibb drops Allie off at home, she disappears. Suddenly, the teacher who was already under suspicion for inappropriate behavior becomes the last known person to have been with her. The police start looking at him, the media starts talking, and the entire community begins treating Gibb like a possible kidnapper. But here's where the good student starts playing with the audience. Because Gibb may look guilty, yet the movie keeps giving us reasons to question exactly what we think we know. The disappearance becomes a spectacle. Allie's father, Phil Palmer, even uses the situation to attract attention to his car dealership. Meanwhile, Gibb's reputation collapses. Everyone has an opinion about him. And the more the story develops, the more the movie asks whether we're judging Gibb based on actual evidence or simply because he looks like the obvious suspect. Then the story takes an even stranger turn. Because Allie isn't simply gone. She's still alive. And that changes the entire mystery. As the movie continues, Allie's disappearance becomes increasingly difficult to understand. The audience sees enough to know that the situation isn't as simple as a conventional kidnapping. There are secrets surrounding several characters, and the film keeps shifting our attention between them. Gibb is obviously suspicious. His behavior toward Allie was inappropriate. He was the last person publicly known to have been with her. And he has every reason to hide certain things about his relationship with her. But none of that automatically proves that he kidnapped her. That's where the movie deliberately keeps us uncomfortable. Gibb's entire life is falling apart, while everyone around him seems to be exploiting the disappearance for their own reasons. The media wants a story, the community wants someone to blame, and Allie's father sees an opportunity to promote his business. Meanwhile, Gibb is forced to deal with the consequences of being publicly labeled a suspect. Eventually, the movie begins revealing that Allie is not simply a helpless victim waiting to be rescued. Her disappearance is more complicated than the initial reports suggest. And this is where Hayden Panettiere's performance becomes important. Allie isn't given a conventional kidnapped girl storyline. Instead, the character becomes part of the movie's larger mystery about appearances. What people think happened isn't necessarily what happened. And what Gibb tells people isn't necessarily the whole truth either. By the final section, the movie begins to suggest that Gibb has another side to him. The innocent, pathetic teacher we've been following may not be as innocent as he appears. But at the same time, the film refuses to give us a clean confession or a detailed explanation of every step. That's why the ending can feel confusing. Some viewers expect a traditional mystery reveal. They want the movie to tell them exactly who kidnapped Allie, why it happened, how it happened, and what Gibb's role was. Instead, The Good Student gives us something much more ambiguous. The final moments force us to reconsider Gibb. The film suggests that there are essentially two versions of him. There's the weak, miserable teacher everyone sees, and then there's the darker possibility underneath that surface. This connects to the movie's unusual final narration and its references to Abraham Lincoln. The idea is that there can be different versions of the same person depending on how we choose to see them. And that becomes the key to understanding Gibb. The movie isn't necessarily saying that every detail of the kidnapping has been solved. It's saying that our original image of Gibb may have been wrong. He may not simply be the pathetic victim of a scandal. There is something darker about him, and Allie's disappearance forces that hidden side into the open. But the movie intentionally leaves some questions unanswered. That's why different viewers have come away with different interpretations of the ending. Some believe Gibb was directly responsible for what happened. Others believe the film is deliberately leaving his exact involvement uncertain, and the movie itself doesn't provide enough information to confidently construct a complete kidnapping timeline. So, if you've been looking for a definitive explanation saying exactly what Gibb did to Allie, the honest answer is that the film doesn't give us one. What it does give us is a final shift in how we're supposed to see him. So what actually happened to Hayden Panettiere's character, Allie Palmer? The most important answer is this: Allie survives. Her disappearance is not the simple murder or permanent kidnapping that the early parts of the movie make you expect. But the movie deliberately keeps the circumstances surrounding her disappearance murky. And that ambiguity is the entire point. The Good Student isn't really interested in giving us a perfectly organized crime mystery. It's more interested in exposing the difference between appearances and reality. At the beginning, Gibb looks like a pathetic teacher whose life has been destroyed by a misunderstanding. Then we remember that he had an inappropriate fixation on Allie. He was watching her. He drove her home. He was photographed kissing her. And then she disappeared. So naturally, everyone suspects him. But as the story continues, we discover that the people around Allie and Gibb aren't necessarily as innocent or straightforward as they appear either. The movie keeps playing with the audience's assumptions. And when the final twist arrives, we're supposed to look back at Gibb differently. The biggest revelation isn't simply about where Allie was, it's about who Gibb really is. The ending suggests that there is another side to this seemingly harmless teacher, but it stops short of explaining every detail. That's why The Good Student has remained such a strange movie to discuss. Some viewers find the ending clever because it refuses to spell everything out. Other viewers find it frustrating because the movie seems to raise questions that it never completely answers. Both reactions make sense. If you're expecting a traditional thriller where the final 5 minutes reveal the kidnapper, explain the motive, and close every mystery, this movie isn't going to satisfy you. Instead, it leaves you with an uncomfortable possibility. Maybe the person we spent the entire movie feeling sorry for was never as innocent as he seemed. And maybe that's the real meaning behind the title. Who is the good student? Is it Allie? Is it Gibb? Or is the movie asking whether we can ever really understand people based only on what they show us? Hayden Panettiere was only around 16 when the film was made, and Allie was one of her early prominent movie roles. The film was produced in 2006 and later released under the title The Good Student, also known as Mr. Gibb. Today, the movie is remembered largely because of Panettiere's presence and because its ending is so unusual. But there is another important point. The strange behavior and disturbing storyline belong to the fictional character and should not be confused with Hayden Panettiere's real life. This was a role she played early in her career. So, in the end, what happened to Allie? She disappeared, survived, and returned to the story. But the film deliberately leaves the exact mechanics of her disappearance unclear, and that's what makes the ending so unsettling. The movie doesn't give you every answer. Instead, it leaves you wondering whether you ever really understood Ronald Gibb at all. And perhaps that was the real mystery from the beginning.